Welcome everyone to the 112th Celebrity Synastry chart reading, where we will be covering Florence Pugh and Harry Styles. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Adeline and it is so nice to meet you. On this channel, I look at the dynamic between two celebrities using astrology. For those new and returning, I take notes on a Synastry chart looking at the personal planet signs aspects, and if birth times are available, house overlays. I share these notes and add my extra insights and interpretations along the way. So if that sounds good to you, subscribe to click the bell to join us weekly, and let's get right into this one. Starting off with the sun, we have Florence's sun in Capricorn and Harry's sun in Aquarius. Harry brings Florence out of her shell. Potentially this could be in relation to, her acting around him, because as far as I know, that's pretty much the only contact they've had is with their movie. Don't worry, darling. I hope I got that right. I feel like in every video I talk about, it's always something different and I forget. So I think don't worry. Don't you worry, darling? That one. They prioritize their careers and Harry appreciates Florence's reliability. They tend to neglect each other, which not the end of the world. They were, colleagues on a project. Don't need to be always together. You neglect each other, that happens. Florence's sun overlaid in Harry's third house. It's a comfortable atmosphere and Florence thinks Harry is brilliant. They enjoy talking about their days and Florence thinks Harry is predictable. I wonder if talking about their days, I don't know, potentially they had a good, colleague dynamic in terms of small talk was fine. It didn't cause any issues. Harry feels smarter around Florence and Florence sees Harry as someone with good common sense, okay? Florence's sun square Harry's moon. There are basic misunderstandings and practical disagreements. I don't know why there was drama on the set. As far as I know, there was some issues with the director Olivia Wilde and the whole, because she was in a relationship with Harry, that was some kind of issue. I know there was some drama. I'm not sure if it was on the more practical level, with the whole it ends with us, thing. They were a bit more practical, this was done incorrectly, so now there's drama. Or if there was actual physical the actual disagreements between people not getting along, if that makes sense. So but that is their practical disagreements. Harry sees Florence as too rational and selfish. So far they do seem to see each other as a bit more rational, practical. Florence sees Harry as too sensitive and there is general discontent. And Harry may feel resentful towards Florence over time, which I feel makes sense. With what we have seen so far, there's nothing necessarily bad, in terms of how Harry views Florence. He sees her as reliable, feels smarter around her. So it makes sense that over time there would be an issue rather than an initial thing. Florence's sun is sextile Harry's Jupiter. Florence energizes Harry and they are good travel companions. That is there. Potentially they may have had to travel for the movie. Harry is generous with Florence and they both want to make the other happy. Mutual respect remains after the end. Interesting. I'm very curious to see where this goes, because the only negative we have seen is, Harry feels resentful over time towards Florence. Otherwise, it seems to be a pretty decent colleague dynamic. Harry boosts Florence's confidence and Harry frequently gives Florence the benefit of the doubt. Which, boosting Florence's confidence, maybe that is how Harry would bring Florence out of her shell, which we saw in the beginning. Harry's sun Trine Florence's moon. There is honest communication and Harry relies on Florence's support. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he had to. She is a very well-regarded actress. One of the ones that is known to be actually good at their craft as far as I know, and has done more intense movies besides this one. Whereas Harry, acting wise, he's not really well regarded as far as I know. It's his music that is, really well esteemed. So it's not surprising to see he would rely on her support, which also can kind of link back to how he feels smarter around Florence. Potentially he feels like he got a lot of knowledge around her. Florence relies on Harry's wisdom and it's naturally a cooperative relationship. Florence tends to be dependent on Harry and they both feel they can rely on each other, which, you know, we're seeing this. I don't know where Florence will be dependent on Harry besides the little confidence thing and bringing out of the whole shell. Harry's Sun conjunct Florence's Venus. There is mutual respect and mutual attraction as well. It's an accepting relationship and they share common interests. I mean, the whole movie is a big common interest for them, isn't it? They're a financially lucky couple and Harry encourages Florence's creativity. Harry feels more beautiful around Florence and Florence finds Harry charming and intriguing. So there seems to be like an element of like when they're around each other, they sort of like boost their confidence. They feel a lot smarter around each other. Now for the intermission. This video is brought to you by me, my Etsy store, Adeline the Astrologer. If you ever watch this and think, hey, I would like her to read my Synastry chart, well, I will. I do personalized Synastry readings on my Etsy store, both basic and detailed. The basic one is very simple to understand. It's not overwhelming at all. It's pretty good for those that are beginners to astrology, just getting the head around astrology, or just as a fun gift idea. The detailed one is just like what I do on my channel, just a lot of insight and interpretation on your chart. So if you are interested in that and everything else astrology and tarot related, readings and gifts, then definitely check out my Etsy store. Links are below. I'm always releasing new things, so definitely check it out if you're interested. You can even just favorite the store just to show your support for free. Thanks for listening and let's get back to the reading. So now it's time for moon. We have Florence's moon in Gemini and Harry's moon in Libra. These are both air signs. Prioritize their social lives and it's a rational and reasonable relationship. Not surprisingly so. That seems to be the whole gist so far. They deal with problems similarly. I wonder maybe this might be a bit of a stretch, because especially since I'm not familiar with the drama, I probably should have looked into it a bit. But I wonder if with, I guess, their response to the whole drama, maybe they responded and dealt with the whole thing in a similar way, which not necessarily the worst thing, but sometimes the same approach is not a good thing, if that makes sense. Sometimes you do need a little bit of complementary. So I wonder if maybe the drama accelerated and like the tension between them accelerated because they dealt with the drama in a similar way. They appreciate the other's friends and they're both uncomfortable with emotions. So I assume like the way they both would have approached acting, because it seems like Florence is helping Harry with it, is not in an emotional way, because, you know, there are those different styles of actings. One of them very much relies on, you know, getting those emotions deep within and like projecting it, blah, blah, blah. I'm not too familiar. There's probably a name for that. I don't know. But I assume like that was not their sort of acting style. Like emotions were very much kept out of it. That seems to be what's happening so far. Florence's moon are overlaid in Harry's 8th house. Harry can go deep into Florence's psyche and Harry can awaken Florence's inner demons. This is interesting. I wonder where this will go, because you could see this in a more deeper way, which we haven't really seen so far with these two. But you could also see this as like, you know, helping Florence be a better actress, I should say. Especially since the whole movie, as far as I know, has a bit of a more darker undertone. It's not like a happy rom-com-y type movie where, you know, you would require more, potentially more like inner demons and all to work with that sort of thing, rather than, you know, just be basic acting, if that makes sense. I'm very curious to see where this will go. Florence will desire things in this relationship that are taboo, and they both act out fantasies together. I mean, they're literally, yeah, they're acting together. Yeah, there's a deep connection and an emotionally nurturing relationship. I'm curious to see where this will go, but that's there. Possibility for them to come back after a separation. This is interesting, because we did see that they both like remain on good terms. I'm pretty sure like mutual respect remains after the end. I'm pretty sure we saw. Desire for the other is never satiated. Interesting. Their moons are trine together, so there's a desire to nurture each other. We took a bit of an interesting U-turn. Normally the U-turns we take are like, you know, suddenly it's all very bad, but like it's like I'm imagining, you know, that scene in Beauty and the Beast, like where there's that road that's a bit darker than the one that's happier. I feel like we took a U-turn into that like darker road. It's interesting. They're sensitive to each other's needs, and long-term or marriage. I mean, obviously long-term, I would say. I believe Florence has been married since then, and not to Harry. They share similar tastes, and they feel comfortable together. They enjoy creating a home together. Now my brain is going to, I probably should have seen the movie, because that could have been an interesting thing to look at. Like, how similar is this to maybe like the whole on-screen relationship, the relationship within the movie, because I'm pretty sure there is an element of them, like they're together as like a married, like 50s type couple, as far as I know in the movie. So that is interesting. Maybe some of this is a reflection of the movie. Family plays an important part in the relationship, and they feel safe together. There's a tendency to avoid hurting each other, and there's a possibility of being too accommodating to each other. Okay. Florence's moon at Trine, Harry's Venus. There's a mutual appreciation, and it is easy to compromise. It seems like very agreeable, like very civil. Civil's the word that's coming to my mind of these two. There is natural affection, and they are supportive of each other during conflict. I'm very curious to look into the drama itself. I really need to look into this whole thing now, because it seems like they are quite okay with each other and like what's supportive of each other during conflict. I'm very curious, because it's just very confusing in my brain, because as far as I knew, like, I think there was conflict between Florence and like Harry, or Florence and everyone else. Like, there was some conflict there, and we're seeing like they're supportive of each other, mutual respect remains, they solve problems similarly. It's curious. They appreciate art together, and they're a social couple. And again, we have Harry's moon at Trine Florence's Venus. This is a repeated aspect, but there is nothing to be inverted, so everything I just said is further emphasized. So now it's time for Mercury. We have both their Mercuries in Aquarius, so they have abstract conversations, which I feel like makes sense considering they're both, you know, acting together. They both tend to be argumentative. Aha, we're seeing a negative. It's intellectually stimulating, and they share detached and objective values. Florence's Mercury overlaid in Harry's third house. Florence is more chatty around Harry, and Florence enjoys long conversations with Harry. Interesting. Harry will enjoy conversations with Florence. I mean, with what we have seen so far, it seems like they will be more talking on an intellectual level and enjoy potentially talking about their crafts. Especially, it seems like they are quite supportive of each other with that and helping with each other artistically. Florence's Mercury conjunct Harry's Mars. Discussions and intellectual debates are prioritized, not really surprisingly so. Florence is vocal about her fantasies with Harry, which I feel like you could interpret this as potentially Florence, particularly since she is an actor, she could be, you know, not misinterpreting. There is a word for it. Improvising is the word. She could be improvising certain things like within the script and potentially wanting to change certain things. Which she is, if you're acting with someone, you know, as like a sort of like couple lead, you would have to be, you know, we're going to act this way together, potentially, you know. Harry feels frustrated with Florence, and Florence sees Harry as irritable. Okay. Florence's Mercury sextile Harry's Pluto. They're interested in unique subjects together, and it's a therapist-patient relationship. It's very odd how there's this weird depth to it. Like, my brain is going like either like they just have a weird, like deep, very deep, like sort of like creative intellectual relationship, or maybe this is simply a reflection of who they were in the movie as a couple. They get to the bottom of things quickly, and they share a lot together. Florence is fascinated by Harry's depth, and they tell each other their deepest secrets. Florence uplifts Harry. I assume this would be in the sort of like acting sense, you know, again. They both heal from past relationships together. That's interesting, and I feel like, I don't want to say it's not surprising, but you know, you don't necessarily have to be in like a proper serious relationship with someone. You could have that colleague dynamic and have it very healing for you in a certain way. Harry opens up Florence to new ways of thinking, which I believe we did see how he opens up new doors for her. I mean, I want to say like musically, but like, you know, I don't believe she's done anything like that or even touched that. So I wonder if maybe like he is, maybe some new style of acting he saw, in some acting class he just did. They resolve deeper matters together, and Harry appreciates Florence's humor. Harry's Mercury sextile Florence's Jupiter. Florence appreciates Harry's thoughts and ideas, and they have open communication. They have a strong friendship, and Florence often gives Harry the benefit of the doubt. Did we not see this before? Business together is beneficial. Not surprisingly, so I'm pretty sure the movie was a massive success. They enjoy traveling together. We're seeing again, and there's an optimistic meeting, and they love to laugh together, which I assume would be more coming from Florence's, and we did see she uplifts Harry and he appreciates her humor. They intellectually stimulate each other. Harry's Mercury square Florence's Pluto. They have frequent intellectual arguments, and Harry feels controlled by Florence. They frequent intellectual arguments. I can't really say I'm surprised. It seems like intellectually they do seem to be good, but this sounds bad. Something had to go wrong in a way. Like, if there was such a big, drama from this film, and I don't believe they were like siding with each other. I think it was a matter of they were, opposing each other. Like, something obviously had to go wrong. Harry feels controlled by Florence. Also not surprising. Florence is the sort of more experienced actor. Like, in this particular dynamic they have going on, Florence is definitely the bigger person in terms of she's the one with the acting experience, whereas he's a newbie and not a very wanted person in the space, if that sounds mean to put it, but he really isn't, is he? Both may hold on to issues for too long, and Harry is overwhelmed by this dynamic. Harry wants to understand Florence deeply, and Florence wants to know Harry's secrets, which, going back to how they share deep dark secrets together, and Florence tries to control Harry's thoughts. I feel like this is just going to her being a bit more controlling on the sort of acting thing they have together, because we did see that, she's vocal about certain fantasies with Harry. She probably has a certain vision for the movie, and probably them as a couple in the actual movie. And, I'm sure there would be some conflicts, because wasn't he dating Olivia Wilde, the director of the whole thing? That's because your loyalty would be with her as well, if you're Harry, and she would have a certain vision. That's something I didn't even think of. That's just clicking in my brain. So now it's time for Venus. Both their Venuses are in Aquarius, so they share relationship ideals. I don't feel like it's particularly relevant to these two, but that's there. Neither like tradition or restriction, and they give the other freedom. Relationship seems unusual to outsiders. Yeah. It kind of does. As far as I know, they seem to have public conflict and everything, but Florence's Venus overlaid in Harry's 4th house. Florence feels the need to protect herself from Harry. That's not great. Florence has a strong attraction to Harry, which I feel like we've seen on both ends. There's the mutual attraction. Harry senses Florence's hesitancy, and there is a strong magnetism. Uncertainty and tension characterizes their relationship. I'm sure it does now, and towards the end, it seems like overall they really do seem to have quite a good intellectual colleague dynamic. Their Venus signs are conjunct to each other, so they appreciate each other's aesthetic tastes. I'm pretty sure they do both have more quirky taste. From what I remember, thinking of how they dress, recalling that, I'm pretty sure they both dress a bit more on the eccentric side. Potential for long term. Again, I feel like this would be in a sort of more colleague dynamic. There's a basic understanding of each other, and they are loving to each other. They are easy in each other's company, and they share their social life. I think we did see that before. Florence's Venus square Harry's Jupiter. Florence feels more confident and attractive around Harry. We're seeing again. And Harry may be irritated with Florence's possessiveness. So the possessiveness, we didn't see that worded specifically, but we did see how she's a bit more on the controlling side of things. They can find a happy way to share their life, and it's a promising relationship. I feel like, on set, I'm sure it seems like they would have got along on set and found a happy way to share their life. And that's something I didn't think of before. We saw a point they enjoy creating a home together. Potentially, you're on set. You kind of live there when you're an actor for a while. I'm not sure how long this filmed, but I'm pretty sure films, they do take a few months, which is a long time to live with some random people for. So now it's time for Mars. We have Florence's Mars in Capricorn and Harry's Mars in Aquarius. The relationship lacks affection, and they neglect each other. cool. It doesn't really matter here, does it? Harry makes Florence anxious. I think we did see something that she gets irritated by him. I don't know if specifically anxious, but that's there. Florence is hard on Harry, so I assume she's kind of like it taking him under his wing in like, I don't know how else to put it, like a non-consensual way. Like it seems like she really wants him to act in everything, and she seems to potentially have standards when it comes to acting. Like, you're going to be acting with someone like me, you can step up, sort of thing. And potentially is putting the same pressure on Harry as she would any other actor, which for her, I don't blame her. That's honestly fine. Florence's Mars overlaid in Harry's third house. Florence is more blunt around Harry. I wonder if that is maybe an issue that was a part of the drama, because Florence seems to be very like have her head on straight. She's an actor. She's here to do a job. She's here to do it properly. And I wonder if like that was a conflict with, you know, the director, Olivia Wilde, being in a relationship with Harry. Not to say that Olivia, because it would be in Olivia's best interest for Harry to also be a good actor and have everyone doing their best. But I wonder if maybe, like, Olivia maybe didn't appreciate how Florence was a bit hard on Harry with everything. I don't know if that was a part of the drama, but that's just where my brain is going with Florence's, you know, tough love, you could say. Harry may intimidate Florence, and Harry is sensitive to Florence's intensity. We did see before how Florence sees her as a bit more sensitive, so it seems like he doesn't necessarily appreciate her sort of like intensity, dedication to this job. Florence's Mars conjunct Harry's Uranus. They may encourage each other to engage in reckless behavior, and Harry's independence is attractive to Florence. It's unconventional, and there's a possibility of volatility. In a way, it has kind of come up. Like the amount of drama and that has come from this, it's not surprising to see that. Harry can trigger Florence's temper. I want to misinterpret this. I want to, you know, interpret this a bit differently. The way I want to interpret this is probably the better way to put it. Potentially, Florence's temper is more relating to, I guess, Florence's, like, we need to get the job done properly. And Harry not being the best actor is potentially triggering that. And, you know, triggering Florence's like real passion and dedication and drive and everything, if that makes sense. Explosive sudden arguments that diffuse quickly, and Harry is attracted to Florence's decisiveness. Florence sees Harry as a friend. Florence's Mars conjunct Harry's Neptune. Florence may resent Harry for not giving her enough space. It seems like he is a bit more invested in this. We did see that he's attracted to Florence's decisiveness, which we did see there's mutual attraction. And the weird, like, emotional depth we've seen, that was a weird little bump in the road we got into this relationship. But, like, in comparison to Florence, you know, Florence seems to be very much about the job, wanting to get things done. Yes, there is a bit of attraction to, like, Harry and everything, but, like, it seems like she's moving past that. Whereas Harry doesn't seem to have that same professionalism, if that makes sense. Florence is fascinated by Harry's ethereal mindset, I believe we're seeing again. And they are both humanitarians. Harry sees Florence as a knight in shining armor and is likely to depend on Florence. She seems to be, yeah, I'm not surprisingly so. It seems like Harry is this damsel in distress. I don't know what I'm doing. And then Florence is kind of like has to pick up everything. Florence's Mars sextile Harry's Pluto. Florence's daring nature is attractive to Harry. You know, if that's what works for him, you know, he's into this daring nature, this, you know, assertiveness of hers. It's competitive and its potential to be destructive or dangerous. I mean, in a way, like, kind of destructive. Like, there is drama. There are power issues, and they have dramatic fights, which we did see that they have sudden arguments that diffuse quickly, so that's there. And power issues. You know, obviously, in the acting world, Florence is definitely a lot more, like, respected, I guess you could say. Definitely a bit more influential and all of that. Whereas Harry in the music, and I feel like culturally, you could say he has a bigger influence, which culturally is a bit of a, you know, when you have an influence on the culture itself rather than just the music industry, you are more like dominant in that way. Harry's Mars conjunct Florence's Uranus. This is a repeated aspect, just inverted. So Florence's independence is attractive to Harry. He seems to be very into her, like, her being professional, it seems like. Florence can trigger Harry's temper. I don't like this, I don't know, I can't really interpret this in any like positive way like I did last time. Harry sees Florence as a friend, and Florence is attracted to Harry's decisiveness. Harry's Mars sextile Florence's Pluto. This is a repeated aspect again, just inverted, so everything from before is further emphasized, but also Harry's daring nature is attractive to Florence. So I mean, throughout the reading, we've seen that they both seem to be quite attracted to each other, you know, in their own ways. So that was the final aspect, bringing us to the end of the reading. If you are still watching, please share your thoughts below. I'd be very curious to see what you guys have to say about this one. Very interesting reading and very short reading. I would have liked a bit more information, but it was a bit more short, unfortunately. And if you are a fan of these two, or like have kept up with the drama, I'd be very curious, like, what your thoughts are on all of this, and like how much this all plays in with the drama, because it seems like generally these two don't really have a bad like tension in a different way, but it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of conflict. Like towards the end we did see there's arguments and everything, but overall they seem to be generally like civil colleagues and able to get the job done. So I'm very curious if you are actual fans of the movie and of the drama. If you have made it this far, please consider subscribing for more. I post these readings weekly. And besides that, give this video a like, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!